Hey, good to see everybody right here on 5 News Plus. Wanted to do some more Q&A with you. I have found that this feels a heck of a lot more useful to folks than me just standing on the green screen and talking for several minutes. So if you've got questions for me, text me, 479-785-5000. I know that some of you are watching on your phone and you may have to borrow somebody else's phone to send me that text message, but they literally come in right here, and I'm going to be answering as many as I can. Last night we did this for like 45 minutes, and it was a lot of fun for me, and I hope it was at least somewhat helpful for you. While I'm waiting on some of those to come in, let me just walk you through the changes in the map. There haven't been really a lot of changes per se. We did make some minor adjustments this morning, kind of as was expected, and this is where we stand. I've not made any changes tonight, as I've not seen any significant changes in the data. That's actually good in one sense, in the sense that, maybe the forecast is kind of leveling out and we're not seeing any drastic last-minute changes, as can sometimes be the case. On the other hand, this is me speaking personally, I wouldn't mind if this thing shifted back to the south a little bit so we could have more snow than sleet and the potential of a little bit of ice. So that's the big picture. Let me do this. Let me zoom in and work our way from the north to the south to get an idea of kind of like how things are going to be shaking up for us. I see your text messages coming in, and we'll dive into those here in just moments. 8 to 12 is going to be common across northwest Arkansas. When we talk about these ranges, I know our eye is drawn to 12 inches, a foot of snow. Keep in mind, it's a range, right? Like, I don't know if everyone gets a foot of snow. In fact, I'd be willing to bet probably not. Some of us are going to trend closer to 8. So keep that in mind if we're anywhere in the purple zone here. I do think it's going to be majority snow in Gravette and, let's say, Siloam Springs and Westville. We get into Hinesville and Clifty, St. Paul, Eureka Springs, Beaver, Garfield, Rogers, Lowell, of course, up and down the I-49 corridor there. Mostly snow. Could be a little bit of sleet mixing in. I'd say the same for places in West Fork and Elkins, Huntsville, St. Paul. I already said St. Paul. Farmington. We have a little bit more elevation the further south we get. And, of course, up and down I-49, it's going to be like an ice skating rink. Those bridges and overpasses, they're going to be the first to go, which may really probably be around this time tomorrow evening, about 24 hours. I'll talk about timing in a minute. I got a couple of different ways that I want to talk about timing, so it makes it easy for you in one sense. And on the other hand, if you want some detailed specifics, we can do that too. Things are still tricky in the River Valley. We're looking at a lot of sleet mixing in, which makes forecasting the actual overall totals rather tricky because you really have to combine the two. They both accumulate the same. So we're looking at a swath of 4 to 8 inches of sleet and snow. It's probably going to be at least 1 to 3 inches of sleet. You add a little bit of snow on top of that. Again, those ranges are kind of broad simply because the snow to liquid ratios that the sleet takes up, it kind of undercuts the snow in a somewhat meaningful way. And so I think we're looking at a lot of sleet in the River Valley. We get into the Ouachitas, and this is what I alluded to last night, and the overnight data really reinforced this idea. So we went ahead and added this third zone, southern LaFleur, a large chunk of Scott, and I wouldn't even rule out places like Mansfield and Magazine. You know what? Maybe even Boonville. We start to see that transition zone really ramp up, meaning we're probably not going to see a lot of accumulation. A lot is relative. I mean, 4 inches is a decent amount for around here. 3 is the annual average in the River Valley. So for context, we're looking at a pretty notable storm. 4 inches of mostly sleet with a little bit of freezing rain. And some of that freezing rain is going to accrete or develop on tree limbs and things of that nature in that part of that light blue zone. And that's certainly something we're tracking really closely. In fact, if there's anything that I'm laser focused on, it's right now, is what does that ice or freezing rain forecast look like? Right now, I don't see widespread power outage amounts in the data in that part of the area, but I do see enough that maybe there could be some isolated power outages in southern LaFleur and parts of Scott County, maybe even in southern Logan and southern Scott. Kind of hard to say here. Okay, let's dive into the questions. We have, oh my word, a lot. Scott, I hope Clarksville gets to decent snow, no ice. Yeah, you're kind of in that 4 to 8 zone where you're going to get a mix of sleet and some snow. Thoughts on Wednesday travel from Fayetteville to XNA? By Wednesday, the main roads are going to be passable. I don't think they're going to be great, but they're going to be passable. So I think you're probably going to end up being okay. And at that point, the runways are going to be in really good shape. Let's see. Hi, hey, Scott. Hope you're doing well. I'm the director of the Boys and Girls Club in Crawford County. We usually close at 6. Should I ask parents to pick up early tomorrow so we can get everyone home safely? Man, I have so much sympathy and respect for decision makers. I've been talking to a lot of superintendents today and trying to get an idea and equip them with information. I can equip you with information, but I don't necessarily want to give a total recommendation. Let me do this. Let's dive into timing. I suspect there's probably going to be a lot of timing questions. We'll start with a broad overview. I think this can help you out in making those decisions. The lighter blue there, north of I-40, at the earliest, we could see some spotty activity at noon. 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock, spotty, right? It's not a big deal. Generally speaking, there might be a slick spot or two, but it's probably going to be isolated. I'll show you what that could look like here coming up in a bit on Futurecast. We get into the river valley. The earliest is 3. Now, those are the absolute earliest. I think the higher odds of the most impactful window is going to be 8 to midnight, Northwest Arkansas, 6 p to 10 p in the river valley. That's when those widespread areas of rain and sleet and snow begin to move in. So, if you wanted to play it safe, an early pickup, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with an early pickup. Is it a little overkill? Perhaps, but man, I just think in terms of keeping kids safe, I would always err on the side of caution, without a doubt. Okay, let's see here. What type of snow will it be? From Aiden in Fayetteville. Look, this is going to start as a wet snow. But as that Arctic air continues to move in, Arctic air is cold, yes, but it's also really, really dry. So the more cold Arctic air we spill in throughout the day on Saturday, it becomes a lot drier and more powdery of a snow. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but it starts wet and it ends somewhat dry. How much snow are we going to get in the river valley? Look, it's so hard to separate the sleet versus the snow. I think, when we start talking about 4 to 8 inches in the river valley, is half of that sleet? It's a real possibility. So in some locations that means 2 inches of sleet, 2 inches of snow, and others it may mean 4 inches of sleet, 4 inches of snow. That's probably a little bit drastic, but it's like kind of the realm of possibility for us out there. Okay, let's see. Chris and Alma, what do you think Alma's going to get? Well, let's see. I think Alma, you're right on that I-40 corridor, which, is wild that Mother Nature just knows. Probably because we built an interstate where the geography changes, right? That's really probably how I should explain that. You're right on that zone. I think you're going to get a decent amount of sleet and a decent amount of snow. It'll probably transition to all snow by Saturday evening. I'll show you a Futurecast here coming up. Let me answer 2 more questions and then we'll go to Futurecast. How long is this going to last? I love the question. And the reason I love that question is it's all about expectations. What I've learned in this business is you got to set those expectations really early, because I'm showing you a map right now that far surpasses our annual average snowfall all over the 5 News viewing area. But it doesn't all fall at once. This is going to last until Sunday. Some indications are Sunday morning. I've got some other data that suggests, maybe slower to exit, maybe Sunday afternoon. At any rate, when you wake up Saturday morning, you're not going to see 8 to 12 inches of snow on the ground or 4 to 8 of sleet snow. These numbers are Sunday when it's all done, right? This starts tomorrow evening. And it really comes in 2 waves. I'll show you that on Futurecast. It really comes in 2 waves. There's going to be a big lull in the day on Saturday. So just have those expectations set accordingly that you're not going to get it all at once. It slowly but surely piles up. If you were Garrett, how high would your sleeves be up? Look, I'm a big old boy and I get hot sometimes and I roll them up. I think I always think the better way of understanding my scale is are my dogs coming to work with me, or is the dog sitter staying at home with them? And in this case, the dogs are going to be taken care of for a few days because I expect to be here for a few days. Roads are going to be bad. It's going to be kind of tough to travel around the area. Talked to Garrett a lot this morning. He says hello. What time will roads start to get slick in Fort Smith? Let's do this. Let's look at I want to show you a couple of different Futurecast models. Neither one's perfect, but they're good tools in our tool chest to look at. This is 9 a.m. Friday, tomorrow morning. Yeah, cloudy out there, really cold. Arctic air is moving in, so temperatures are dropping relatively quickly. Let me pause this here at noon. Most of us are dry, but if you look really closely, and I know if you're on your phone, you kind of pull that kind of close, you see a spotty sprinkle, a spotty flurry, a spotty sleet pellet here and there. Overall, not really like a big deal. We get a little bit further, and we start to see by 3 o'clock, we got a batch of moisture moving our way. Yeah, that could impact a few folks, but it's, largely it's still pretty dry around the area. By 5 o'clock, things are starting to change. Moisture is moving in, our atmosphere is getting saturated, and we're starting to see a widespread area of a mix initially south of Interstate 40. This is 7 o'clock. I want you to know this, temperatures at this point, at the surface where you and I are, where those roads are, very below freezing, like probably in the 20s at that point. So as it falls, road issues get slick immediately. This is not a situation or a setup that we sometimes have where the temperatures are slowly falling as the snow or sleet falls. Once this starts falling, it's going to start to stick immediately, unless they've done a really good job pre-treating, which certainly is probably the case. But it's likely going to be pretty quick. It's not going to be one of those things where you got a few hours afterwards before you start to worry about the roads. Those will go downhill pretty quickly. 9 o'clock tomorrow evening, man, it's looking widespread at that point. You got a good mix of some snow, some sleet kind of working its way around the area. It may transition to more snow a little bit closer to midnight before coming back to more of a sleet overnight type of thing. You can kind of see that transition zone. It wobbles around the river valley, and that's why I'm calling for a mix. Right? Like at times it'll be snow, heavy perhaps. At times it's going to be a lot of sleet mixing in to the region. And you can see by 1 o'clock, we're still looking at Saturday of a decent amount of precip falling. There comes that break. The majority of Saturday afternoon into the evening, we're going to get a break. Not that roads are going to be great, but we do get a lull in the precipitation falling before that next round begins to move in. So I hope that maybe helps some of those timing questions. We'll roll back through that if we need to here in a minute. Let's go back to some more questions. Man, I'm trying to get so many of these. Timeline for Fort Smith. I would like to know, I get out at 1 a.m. Friday night. Is it okay to drive home? Carefully, safely, slowly, cautiously, right? Like you got to get home. Be careful. Roads aren't going to be great at that point. Before the state to maintain, do you think realistically, how difficult do you think the storm will be for the state to maintain? Do you think roads will be drivable Monday or Tuesday? That's Eli in Fayetteville. Eli, good to hear from you. So Monday, our temperatures are not warming above freezing. They're not, nowhere. By Tuesday, we do spend a few hours in the afternoon in the upper 30s. That helps a little bit. Main interstates, main highways, they're pretty good at getting those passable. Passable does not mean good. Passable means, hey, you're driving like you got grandma's crock pot in the front seat and you better not spill any because you're on your way to a church potluck. It means you can get there, but it may not be comfortable and it may not be smooth sailing. You're driving pretty slow. Secondary and side streets, it may not be until Wednesday before those improve. I still don't even know if Wednesday they're in good shape, especially those that are covered by shade. We have a lot of really cold air that's going to hang around. Even though we might warm above freezing for a couple of 3 hours in the afternoon, that sun sets and it just refreezes over again. So it's going to take some time to put a dent into that. Wondering if it's a wet snow or dry snow. So of course, like it starts as wet, it ends as dry, interestingly enough. How many inches of snow do you think Charleston will get? I think Charleston, you're definitively within that 4 to 8 zone. Keep in mind some of that sleet as well. What's my prediction for Van Buren? Van Buren, you're kind of on that line as well. I think you're probably going to see more sleet initially. You'll end up with a decent amount of snow on top of that sleet. Let's see, where can we go next? Do you expect power outages in the River Valley? So there's a couple of things to keep in mind. There was one event a few years ago that I was working and I forecasted no power outages. And then the roads were slick and somebody in a vehicle had an accident and they hit a major transmission line and there was a big power outage, right? So sometimes like things that are only loosely weather related can also result in power outages. So I can't rule it out for sure. I learned my lesson that time. It wasn't because there was weight on the lines. It was because some bozo was driving too fast on slick roads and ran into a power pole. Caused a power outage, right? Inconvenienced a lot of people, made their lives a little bit more difficult. So I do think isolated power outages are possible. A couple things to keep in mind. Winds are going to be gusty, 30 to 35 miles per hour, Friday and Saturday. Those winds, even a little bit of freezing rain where that's potential. Let me show you that map here. It's largely going to be well south of I-40. I'm going to call it Ouachitas. I'm going to say southern LaFleur. We get into Scott, maybe southern Logan County. This is where some of that freezing rain may set up. The darker the color, the better probability. Even then, right now, we're looking at maximum a couple of tenths of an inch. To get power outages, you generally need a little bit more than that. You add a little bit of ice, a little bit of weight on some of those tree limb falls, snaps the power line, or the power line themselves can't handle the weight of the ice, a little bit of wind. It's possible. I don't think this is going to be a widespread power outage thing, but I can't rule it out entirely. So if I'm you and I'm living in Heavener and Worcester and in Waldron or Parks or Magazine, I'd just be thinking about it. Like, what do I do if that happens? Have a plan to be sure. Scott, is this storm continuing as forecast 24 hours ago, or is it increasing in Fort Smith? We haven't made any significant changes in the last 24 hours. We've got some new data in about an hour ago, and it didn't really change my mind on anything. And we'll get another set of data in. First round comes in at 10 o'clock, one model. I don't really care for it, but I'll look at it. The model that I really want to see comes in around midnight. And naturally, last night when I should have been catching up on sleep, I was looking at my phone, waiting for it to come in. We'll see if that changes anything. As the window closes, it's kind of harder to change the forecast at this point. The uncertainty is decreasing with every new piece of data we get. Let's see. When does it start in Mulberry? Can the secondary roads be okay in a week? That's Darcy in Mountainburg. So when does it start in Mulberry? Let me start with the big picture here first. Hey, number one, it's really good to hear from all you. My phone is blowing up. I've had to actually take my watch off because it was coming through my watch and it was distracting me. So I really appreciate all your questions. I'm going to do my best to get to them, but I also got to save myself a little bit of time to forecast. So we'll roll with this for about next 15, 20 minutes. In the River Valley, you could see a spotty flake, a spotty flurry, a little bit of drizzle as early as 3 o'clock. I think by 6 p.m., the window is opening. By 8 p.m., you likely have stuff falling out of the sky in Mulberry and in Mountainburg. And by 10 o'clock, you definitely do, and it's probably not going to let up until probably sometime midday Saturday. Next question here. Will I be able to go home okay around 3 or 3:30 tomorrow? Kristen, I don't know where you're at, but I will say you're probably okay. You're probably okay at that point. Is there a chance the snow will not be as bad as it appears? Absolutely. Yeah, there's a chance. There's also a chance it overperforms. I feel like we got a pretty decent handle on things right now. Our ranges are there for a reason. I think, whether we're calling for 4 to 8 or 8 to 12, I think somewhere within that is going to be pretty common. One of the fail points that I'm looking at, we have to look at closely around here, is how much sleet falls. And you hear me talking about the sleet in the River Valley a lot. If there's anything that robs us of our snow, it's going to be the sleet. And that looks like that's going to be plausible for at least the first half of the event, if not more. We're going to get a decent amount of sleet in the River Valley. Oh, which model do you like and which model do you not like? I respect the question. I'm probably not going to answer it because the truth is they all have their strengths. They all have their weaknesses. At the end of the day, they're just computers. And, computers are just that. Let's see. Daniel in Fort Smith, any power outages in the Fort Smith area? It can be kind of the similar conversation as a bit ago. Can't rule out an isolated one, but I think the odds are somewhat low, but never say never. Let's see here. I got Sarah. Let's see, Sarah, what do we got? I live in Pensacola on the edge of Fort Smith and work in Alma. What are the chances of me getting to work on Monday? So there's a lot of factors that go into that. I think at that point, again, main interstates and highways are going to be passable. Neighborhood streets, probably not so great. So that's really going to be able to, kind of dictate a lot of that is those neighborhoods, secondary and side streets. Those are going to be pretty rough out there. Jay Smith, what's the weather impact looking like for Latimer County, Oklahoma? I think you're kind of in that zone where you're going to start with a lot of sleet, and at some point it will probably transition over to snow. The thing is, and what I really appreciate about that question is, and I may be contributing to it now that I'm talking out loud. We love, as humans around this part of the world, we love this snow sleet prediction map. Like, we zero in on how many inches is going to fall. The truth is, what we really need to be focused on are the impacts. And the impacts aren't going to change whether we get more sleet or more snow, whether we get 8 inches or 12 inches. The impacts are this. Roads are going to be in really bad shape for the weekend, and we really need to be prepared to stay home for the weekend. I know some folks have to work, and I get it because I'm one of those folks. But if you're going to be otherwise just at home, make sure you got enough food, which at this point I've seen a lot of pictures of grocery store shelves. I don't know what you're going to get. Get something. Get the prescriptions filled early tomorrow morning if you need to. Make sure you got enough dog food. Do you have a couple of bottles of water? At what point are we going to start dripping those faucets? I mean, these temperatures are going to be pipe bursting cold by, let's say, Saturday afternoon. We're going to need to be dripping as late as Saturday afternoon. Probably wouldn't hurt a little earlier. So the impacts you ask, I think, are that. Really bad road conditions, isolated power outage, dangerously cold temperatures. I mean, we're talking negatives on actual air temperatures, negatives on Sunday and Monday. Let me show you those temperatures. This is not wind chill values. I'll show you those. But this is actual temperatures Saturday morning, single digits in Bentonville, Bella Vista, Rogers. You get into Fayetteville, you're around 12. Huntsville is around 8. 16 Van Buren, Fort Smith. 14 Ozark, Sallisaw, Paris. 17 in Podo. Sunday's not any better. It's getting a little bit colder, but around the same. But the biggest part of that cold air actually arrives on Sunday. And we're waking up at 2 below zero in Fort Smith and Van Buren. We're waking up at 1 degree Fahrenheit in Sallisaw, Podo, and Waldron. 0 from Ozark, Clarksville, and Paris. We're -7 in Fayetteville on Monday morning. The impacts here are just as much about the temperatures than they are actually the actual snowfall as well. Let me show you those wind chill values on Monday. Whoo-wee. Roughly, like loosely, everyone around 10 to 15 below zero. That's some really, really cold air. Love the question there from Latimer County. Let's see. Nikki here. We are driving to Little Rock, Arkansas Children's for an appointment tomorrow, hoping the predictions are accurate, but worried about the drive back to Fayetteville in time. Realistically, what time do we need to be out of Little Rock to be safe? Okay. Let's see what we can do here in real time for you. You're going to have to bear with me. I want to help you, and I want to answer that question. I'm going to need to zoom some of my maps out. Actually, I don't have to on this one. I got Little Rock down there. Okay, let's see here. Fast forwarding. Whoa, let's back up. Okay, so this is about 6, 7 o'clock tomorrow evening. You got some of that activity moving in, the River Valley, the Washitas. Little Rock seemingly is fine. Personally, if you're out of Little Rock by, I think, 2 o'clock, you're probably okay. You'll certainly be home in time for the brunt of it there that moves in overnight. Be safe out there in your drive down there for sure. Okay, let's see. So do you believe there will be school on Monday morning in the Boonville area? Oh, man. The Boonville superintendent does not want me to answer that on this stream. Promise you. It's going to come down to those secondary and side streets where people live. Like, our road crews are incredible, and we're thankful for them. We're thankful for our linemen and our electric crews. Just to be super clear, we're thankful for a lot of folks out there. Secondary and side streets where people and families live, like in neighborhoods, those are going to be rough going. I wouldn't be surprised if school is out on Monday. Wouldn't be surprised. Hey, Scott, this is Sarge from Van Buren. Any chance for any thunder snow? So I'm the wrong guy to ask for that. We have actually on the team here at 5 News, we have our own winter weather specialist, and he's really humble and hates when I call him that, but I'm hoping he's asleep right now and doesn't hear me call him that. Noah Simmons is, when I tell you he is a winter weather expert, you're not going to find a better winter weather expert in Arkansas or Oklahoma. He's really good. His thesis, he was the first student to graduate with an accelerated master's degree from Zoo. Don't hold that against him. His thesis is on thunder snow. And the reason I don't think we're going to get any thunder snow is because he would have already told me. And he's pretty amped up. He loves winter and loves forecasting it. I bet he would have already told me we're going to get thunder snow. So probably not. Is this storm capable of the Northwest Arkansas 2009 ice storm? Thank you for the question. Let me be very abundantly clear with it. No, it's not going to be anything like that in terms of ice. Not at all. How long do you think XNA will handle coming from Fayetteville Wednesday? I think by Wednesday they're going to be in fine shape, right? Like, so the snow comes to an end Sunday, and they're going to get to work immediately to open those runways back up, and they're going to be just fine. Yeah, in fact, I bet XNA is in good shape by Sunday night. Probably your Fort Smith Regional too. Chase from Clarksville, what kind of coverage are we looking at? Because I keep seeing numbers as high as 14, and I just want to be prepared for it. Yeah, man, the whiplash that I know everyone is feeling, because every time you log into Facebook, you're seeing a different map, and not only are there different forecasters in different groups and folks out there forecasting, then we have updates. Like, so this is our second version of it, and if you're out there, you may see the old, you may see the new, and it's just like mind-blowing. Like, what is it? Like, figure it out, right? I know that's frustrating, and trust me, on this side, I'm kind of seeing the same thing. Totally feel ya. As new data comes in, the forecast becomes more clear, and we make these little adjustments. Not that we want to string you along. It's just that once we get new data, we either have more confidence or we don't. So I'll speak to this for Clarksville. I feel good about 4 to 8 in Clarksville. I feel really good about that. I know there are other folks that see the data differently. You get well, let me just tell you this. This is a great example. We have 4 folks on our weather team here, and we all interpret the data a little bit differently, and we collaborate to come up with what we're presenting you here. And now just imagine meteorologists and scientists from different groups, different backgrounds, different approaches, that all kind of see this unfolding differently. I think what makes us really unique in this situation is, look, I grew up 20 minutes from Clarksville, and I know the impact the Boston Mountains has on that Arctic air spilling in. Computer models don't. Computer models will never see that Arctic air mass moving in appropriately because of the mountains there. And so I think there's a little bit more local expertise to finesse some of the forecast. And whereas, you know, if you get this like national media group that's just posting stuff willy-nilly, number one, that there's no blowback they're going to receive. Number two, they just don't understand the local intricacies. And so you're going to see a lot of maps out there between now and the end of this thing. And I'm sorry for that. And I know some folks out there, and I'm not going to call anyone out, and if it's you, you don't have to raise your hand. There's a lot of us shop for maps. Like, hey, Scott's calling for 8 to 12. This other guy across the street, he's calling for 10 to 11. Like, what is it? Like, which one fits my own wishes? I get it. We all do it. I do it too. It's fine. On your Futurecast, it shows snow starting, snow in the River Valley. Where is this warm air coming from that makes it a transition to a mix on Saturday? To be clear, I think it's going to be a mix on and off Friday night into Saturday? That's a really good question. So we talk about kind of the different precip types. We're not going to get a lot of rain, so I'm just going to skip past rain and go to the next couple of precip types. I hope this illustration kind of helps explain why Northwest Arkansas is getting mostly snow, whereas in the River Valley, we're getting that mix. We call it a warm nose. I don't know why we call it that other than in some of our weather balloon data, we call them soundings. It kind of looks like a nose. Who knows? No pun intended. All that to be said, one of the biggest questions I've gotten, and got it a lot on the stream last night, my goodness, you're telling me it's going to be 22 degrees in Fort Smith. Why is there sleet? Like, why is that not snow? That makes no sense. Well, we got to keep in mind that the atmosphere is really tall. Like there's a whole lot of air above us in those clouds. You get this little layer, a thin layer of warm air. And when I say warm, it's 32 degrees or warmer. You know, it could be 34, could be 35 degrees in the middle level of the atmosphere. So what happens is you get the clouds, start way up at the cloud level, and then you have snowflakes developing in the cloud. And that snowflake starts to fall, but then it runs into that warm nose, that thin pocket of warm air, and it melts into a raindrop. It's liquid. But then you get another cold air mass right below that, below freezing, and it refreezes. In that case, the cold air mass is relatively thick here at the surface, so it has time to refreeze into sleet pellets. It hits the ground. It's kind of like a granulated sleet. I actually have this is my dinner, so I can only, this is the last time I'm going to be able to show this demonstration, and don't judge. So I got a couple of donuts here, and this is to illustrate the difference between sleet and freezing rain. I had a bite earlier. Sorry, hover that around. So sleet is a lot like these sprinkles on this donut. It falls and it almost looks like hail. Now it forms in a very different process than hail, but it's kind of little ice pellets that fall and they kind of bounce and then eventually they accumulate into a layer of sleet. That's like this donut here. Sleet often doesn't result into power outages because it can't really stick to the lines. This is a glazed donut. This is very symbolic of freezing rain, and freezing rain is bad. This is where you get ice storms. The reason is, if you look there, kind of the second from the left, there's a big pocket of warm air. So those snowflakes develop at the cloud, and then it runs into that big pocket of warm air, and there's only a really small pocket of sub-freezing temperatures right here at the surface. And that's where those raindrops hit things like our cars and our trash cans and our mailboxes and power lines and trees. And because that pocket of air there at the surface is so low, it coats everything it touches. Like everything has a solid sheet of ice on it. That's really bad. I don't see a significant ice storm. I don't see a lot of freezing rain right now. I perhaps see a little bit, as we talked about a little bit earlier, there in southern LaFleur, Scott, maybe southern Sebastian and Logan. I'm watching that really closely. Even then, with the forecast amounts that we are potentially seeing, it doesn't look to provide widespread power outages. Doesn't look to be enough. And those donuts are going to be so good after this stream. Let's see. Oh man, you guys have gotten so many, but there are some of them that are very similar to others that I've answered. And so I don't want to just necessarily keep repeating those same ones. May have missed the answer, but when can we expect to see warmer weather to clear the road? Let's do this. Let me show you both 7 days. And what you find is by Tuesday, Northwest Arkansas climbs to 38 degrees. That's only a couple hours in the afternoon. In the River Valley, I would expect us to be in the upper 30s as well for 2 to 3 hours in the afternoon. That'll help. But then we drop right back to 18. So sunsets, black ice back on the roads again. Almost like a wash, rinse, repeat situation because really next week is cold. You got highs in the 30s and low 40s, but overnight we're back in the teens. So this cold air mass stays in place, which is certainly not going to help our road crews. They're kind of on their own. Mother Nature doesn't appear to be assisting them with this go around. Okay, currently it is 8:35. Let's see what else are we going to get here. What time is the temperature going to drop? Kayla from Hartford, let me pull up my temperature chart for you. We'll kind of walk through this. It's actually really cool, no pun intended, to see the Arctic air moving in on the map. So this is like kind of right around now. Temperatures are largely in the upper 30s, low 40s. You can see overnight those blues really dip into Northwest Arkansas. The mountains, as you can see, block that air there pretty well. Temperatures by 7 o'clock in Northwest Arkansas in the 20s. Meanwhile, we're holding on to mid to upper 30s in the River Valley. Slowly but surely, as that cold air works its way into the valleys, we start to see by 4 or 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, temperatures are likely at or really close to that freezing mark. And then after the sun sets, we're all dropping into the teens and 20s, and we probably stay there for the duration of the weekend as that precip continues to fall. When will it start in Dyer, Arkansas? Let's see here. Let me go back to this map. Could have a spotty snow shower, snowflake, sleet pellet right around 3 at the earliest, but I really think 6 o'clock is probably going to be more of a good starting point. Here's 6 p.m. It's one specific model. I'll show you another one. Let's see, that's noon. We're kind of stepping forward here. Here's 3 o'clock. You get a little bit of moisture moving in from the west, southwest. It kind of starts to fill in by 5 p.m. And by 6, 7 o'clock, it's becoming more widespread along and south of I-40. So folks there in Dyer, Mulberry, Alma, Ozark. It spreads north of the interstate, kind of moving up the 49 corridor, north of the tunnel. Then you start to see some snow mixing in with, at times, a little bit of sleet. Let's see here. What else do we got? Can you give me a shout out? My name is Hayes. Hey, Hayes. Let's see. Hey, Scott, my name is Peyton in Fayetteville. This is a picture of me going off a ski jump. There was a 5-inch snowstorm in Fayetteville this time last year. Do you think I'll be able to build a bigger snow jump this year? Yes, I do think so. I think so. We love snow. Bring it on. Yeah, so these snowstorms, man, it's so funny. They're highly emotional. Like, think about it. Think about your own personal feelings about them. Some people love this stuff and look forward to it. There are other people that just absolutely hate the idea of it, whether that's because you got to go to work or you just kind of feel cramped in, or you just don't like being cold. They hate it. Like, it's very divisive. Very divisive. Will Boonville be more snow or sleet? More sleet initially. It'll transition to some snow, but I think you're going to see a decent amount of sleet there. A question from Ozark. How much gas should I have in my side-by-side before the store makes its appearance? Dude, full tank, man. Why would you not? Let's go full tank on that. Do we salt driveways? I've heard no rock salt and getting mixed info on everything. Laura from Rogers, who grew up in Ozark. Hey, awesome. Go Hillbillies. Let's see. Do you salt driveways? It could certainly help. Could certainly help. With there being 2 distinct rounds, the Friday night into Saturday, getting a bit of a break throughout the day Saturday, more coming in Saturday night into Sunday. The question is, do you try to shovel some and then salt before that second round, or do you wait till, it kind of depends on how much salt you have. If you don't have much, I'd certainly try to be strategic there. I would say, though, in Rogers, getting 8 to 12, I'm not sure how much salt's really going to do for you initially. You might save that salt, so shovel first, and then salt the remaining ice that kind of gets compacted there underneath it all. Will this be good snowman building snow? Depends on where you're at. Let's see. I've got a lot of texts from this person, so maybe they've told me their location before. Washington County, near Hogeye Fire Station. So, yeah. Oh, you've got a cute dog, too. It's a golden. I love it. So you are going to get a wet snow initially, and then by midday Saturday, as that cold, bitter cold, dry air mass just continues to funnel in. I've been thinking of it and telling people it's kind of like Canada just like opens up their back door and they just leave it wide open. So that cold air, like, it gets here tomorrow, but it just keeps it coming. Cold air is not just cold, it's dry. Arctic air is really, really dry. That's why your skin's going to get kind of dry. Your lips are chapped. If they're not already, like they're going to be this weekend, there's a lot of static electricity buildup. And so you're going to have that transition over to a dry snow as that Arctic air continues to spill in. Starts as wet snow, heavy at times, and then it transitions to more of a dry snow. So you're going to have a decent ability to build a snowman for sure. Any chance the system could track back more southward, bringing more snow to the river valley? I've been hoping so. My hopes don't get me a long way. We call that wish casting, and I've been doing a lot of that the last 24 hours for our sake in the river valley, and it's not happening yet. Could, yeah, it absolutely could, but it's not happening yet. It's going to be a mess. Talk about the outdoor fur babies. You got to take care of them. Yeah, absolutely. So look, these temperatures like that, you know, they're going to be really, really, really low. You got an outdoor pet, you have to bring them in. You got to find a way to take care of them. You just have to. Scott, this is your cousin, Steve McDonald in Boonville. Steve, good to hear from you. Prime duck hunting weather Saturday. Man, all my friends have invited me on duck hunting trips this weekend, like all of them. And I know they're doing it because they know I'm going to be stuck here and I can't actually go. I think they're just rubbing it in my face. Great duck hunting weather this weekend. I'll be here, though. After this round of winter weather, is there any signals of more on the way? Yeah, there is. There is. How's tomorrow looking in Fort Smith? Cold and dry the first half of the day. By 6, 7 o'clock, you're getting stuff moving in, and it only goes downhill after that. Cindy from Coal Hill. Okay, we already talked about that question there. Is Boonville, Arkansas going to have salt on their roads? I bet. I haven't talked to them, but I bet they will. Let's see, Randy in Mansfield. Man, I've been thinking about Mansfield a lot. Is the likelihood of power outages high enough that we should stay in Fort Smith? I have a newborn and small babies. Oh, man, what a tough decision for someone in your shoes, Randy. Look, the odds right now, I wouldn't say are in favor of widespread power outage there. So if I were you, though, and this is not one of those like silly things where I'm like trying to keep you watching. I don't care. I get paid the same. Bosses probably hated that I said that. So I would stay tuned is what I'm trying to say. And I'm not trying to string you along. The only reason I'm asking you to stay tuned is, as we discussed on this stream earlier, like that's the area I'm most curious about. If that freezing rain line shifts any further north, maybe our potential for seeing some freezing rain amounts that would perhaps bring some electricity offline would increase. It's not happening yet, but we're so close on the line. I'll watch it really closely. Is Fort Smith going to get snow or ice? You're going to get a mix of sleet and snow. Scott, how are you thinking roads in Fayetteville will be? Like, man, I've talked about that one. By Wednesday, you're going to be in fine shape. I think 264 is going to be fine. Let's see. This is Dylan from Fort Smith. Are we going to be able to sled? Do you think? Yes, I think you are. Send me videos, please. You're going to be able to sled. Yeah, for sure. Have to drive Saturday afternoon into work and back home Saturday night, Tawnytown to Fayetteville. You know, roads are going to be bad. I don't want to sugarcoat that. They're going to be bad. And you're going to want to really take it easy. One of the things I've failed to talk about here tonight on this stream, we've mentioned it in earlier discussions, is so not only are the roads going to be slick, and you're going to have sleet, snow, ice pack developing. With this coming in and being as breezy as it probably will be, you're going to have visibility issues. So think fog, but instead of just fog and cloud, it's really just that frozen precip coming down, kind of getting blown around. So you're not going to be able to see the car, 300-400 yards ahead of you, perhaps, maybe even a lower distance. So you're really going to want to take it slow for a lot of reasons. What about ozone? We are right in the middle of NWA and the River Valley. Yeah, I would, in this case, given your elevation at ozone, I would consider you in that 8 to 12 range. You are right on the line. Doesn't it stink to be right on the line? Every time I draw these maps and I see like the line where I'm putting it, I'm like, man, everyone in ozone is going to hate me. What models do you guys use for predicting these, and what will it look like in Bella Vista? We use all of them. We know that some models are junk, but we still look at them. We know that some do better than others, and we look at those more. And so I want to know, when I come in, and look at a forecast any day of the week, but especially when we're looking at winter storms, I want to know a range of possibilities. And I, in my mind, produce like this probabilistic forecast, which is really what you're kind of seeing here. When we talking ranges, that's like a probabilistic thing. I want to know, I want to know what's the reasonable worst case scenario, and I want to know what's the reasonable best case scenario. Or in this case, so I don't take a side, I want to know what the reasonable lowest accumulations are, and I want to know what the reasonable highest accumulations are. And so we look at them all to get an idea. It's important, it's like working on a group project, and you want to get everybody's input, and just to make sure that we're not missing a point of view or we're not missing a certain element of the forecast. So we look at all the models and we kind of take it all together. He's got to live in northern Franklin County and have to be in Fort Smith on Monday. Do you think it will be possible? Go Hillbillies. Yes, HPRD. That's tough coming down the pig trail. That's tough. Do I think it's possible? Yes, because RDOT surprises me every time. Is it going to be tough? Yes, absolutely. The essential workers have to go to work. When is it going to be over? Wednesday? Will it be done? Give us a timeline. I get it. I don't consider myself essential, but I still have to get here. So I totally get that. I want to be clear, like the snow ends Sunday, but the road conditions are going to be rough for a few days. Tuesday, we're above freezing. It refreezes once the sun sets, and then you'll probably have a little bit of patchy ice and snow out on the roadways even Wednesday. At that point, though, it's up to the road crews and how efficient and effective they are. So I think we'll have passable roads by Tuesday, and they'll only get better Wednesday, but that doesn't mean they're good, right? Let's see. I know I've missed some. After this storm, when do you think the next snow event? Oh, man. I'm going to regret doing this, but we're here. Why not? This will have to probably be our last question. We are going to do this. I'm going to pull up a couple of models. And at this range, they're going to be junk, but we'll see here. Okay, so I'm going to take this one out. Plus 10 days. So here comes this weekend system. Going to move it in there. Transitions to snow. It comes to an end Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are dry. Looks like middle of the week, there could be a brief little clipper there, impacting primarily that would be very minor accumulations at best. Late next week, there's something a brewing out there. That's according to that model. Now we're looking like 10 days away. 10 days away, there's no confidence. There's no quality of data at 10 days. So that's what it's showing now, but I put zero stock in that. Okay. All right. We've been here for about almost an hour. I'm going to do this. I'm going to go check on some new model run data and see if I need to revise anything for us before the 10 o'clock newscast. Some housekeeping notes. We have a 24/7 stream if you haven't heard. So if you're curious, before the 10 o'clock newscast, after the 10 o'clock newscast, overnight, and you want just like this one-stop shop of, hey, what's the latest? That's where you can find us. In-depth analysis, quick highlights if you need just the highlights, Futurecast model runs, temperatures, our cameras, things like that. They're on the 24/7 stream. You can get that on your smart TV, on the 5 News Plus app. You can also get it on your cell phones on the 5 News app, and it's also over on YouTube as well. Just search 5 News, and you can find that. There's a whole lot of updates planned for us tomorrow as well. Danny's going to have another Q&A, so I think I got to most everybody, at least broadly. A lot of questions kind of overlap there, which is good. Danny's got another Q&A at 11. I think it's 11. I'll have some more updates for you here at 3. and then, of course, all night long as things get going and all weekend long. And so we are going to be live streaming this thing a lot here on the stream. So check us out if you want to keep up to date with what's going on. This is our map as it stands. I'm kind of anxious to go see if there's anything that makes me believe I need to change it. And if I do, I'll be the first to let you know here on 5 News Plus. All right, thank you guys so much for your questions. Keep sending them in, and as time allows, I'll see if I can't respond back to you directly there on your text message. Thank you guys so much. We really do appreciate you tuning in.